hey, what's going on? Chris Orzechowski here. We got Nick Yates, who is a good friend, former coaching student of mine, really sharp email marketer, agency owner, total badass. Love this guy, and just someone who I'm very fortunate to have had a chance to work with and help maybe a tiny bit over the years. He's a kick-ass dude, and I just want to ask him a few questions about the coaching that we did together. So, Nick, if you wouldn't mind, can you briefly, just for everyone, give everyone the 30-second rundown of like who you are, what your business is, who you work with, those kind of things?
Yeah, so I'm Nick Yates. Yates Digital Marketing is my agency. Mostly work with consumable brands, but worked with Chris for a full year. So it was really a transitioning period for me, which I didn't know at the beginning of it, but it worked out. I was pretty much freelancer, really boutique style, kind of like how Chris has done it, and then went to the agency and then, wherever you're at now, but best of both worlds there. So yeah, now I'm just mostly running an agency.
Nice. Can you tell everyone like where you were before we started working together and then kind of where you were after? Like walk us through like kind of the transformation.
Yeah. So, I always knew like I looked up to you, Chris, as like somebody that's like 5 years ahead of me. So, I always heard all the smartest guys, hire that person. And so finally, I bit the bullet and did it. And, it was a great experience for me. It was before meeting you, I was kind of just winging it. I would see something online from this guy who's successful, then I'd go try that. And then, 2 months later, somebody else is doing this thing. I'd go try that. It's like, oh, this is working now. So do cold email or, do cold DMs or start an Instagram, start a YouTube, whatever it was. And I would just constantly, it's a combination of like FOMO and whatever freelancer ADD, you got a name for that, but just shiny object syndrome. So that was like the two number one things for me working with you was you were probably, and I mean this in the nicest way, like the most simple, like no bullshit. Like I don't even know if you use a to-do list outside of like paper. I mean, I've worked with you as a employee of yours, as a freelancer underneath you. And I mean, I've probably been through a million project management apps. Like you still use the same Asana and, you're just very like simple and basic with everything you do. And that was like a breath of fresh air because like I'm trying to do a million things with a million different apps and optimize all this shit. And you're like, by the time I've finished dabbling with that, you've launched like 3 products and just ran 10 laps around me. And I appreciate that, so that was like the first thing for me was like, I would literally start asking you a question and be like, I know he's just going to be like, stop doing that and just launch it. But then the second thing was really having a sounding board. So as freelancers, we're left on an island. I mean, 99% of the time, it's just us. We've got our clients, but like we can't talk to them that way. We have to be rock that the waves break around for all of our clients. So having someone just to talk, and even if it was just reaffirming what I already knew, that was what the number one thing for me, which is something I don't think a lot of people realize you get from coaching. I think a lot of people assume coaching is just here's this process, do X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to report to you every day, like got this done, this done, this done. But sometimes it's having a reassurance whenever we're our only sounding board 99% of our lives as freelancers. So that was the big thing for me. And so, at the end of my 12 months with you, I'm pretty sure it doubled my revenue overall as in recurring revenue. So, every month was doubled. It got me to the point where I realized I couldn't, you maxed out my fulfillment. So I couldn't do it on my own anymore. So I had to make some decisions there. I chose to go the agency route for the first time in my 10 plus years, which I'm still new to. I mean, I'm about 6-7 months into it now. So who knows if I'll stay agency or not, but definitely doing that now. So you helped me get to that point. But yeah, I mean, it's just that lasting simplicity that has stayed with me the most outside of just obviously revenue numbers, which is kind of expected working with you, to be honest.
Awesome, man. Yeah, just to go back to one thing you said about the simplicity, it's always been my driving philosophy, but, I was looking on X the other day and there was someone posted about Jack Dorsey, like when he was building Twitter, the way he communicated with everyone was shared Apple Notes. And like if he had a question for someone, he would just drop it in an Apple Note for that. He'd have notes for each person. And I was like, this guy built a multi-billion-dollar company communicating with Apple Notes. And there's so many examples like that. And that's the big thing is it's keeping things simple, doubling down on what works, and then also just choosing what things not to do. That's where a lot of people go wrong. They think they have to chase every wild goose. And oftentimes those are the things that distract you from the stuff that actually makes you money. So I'm glad that you brought that up. So based on, our work together and where you're at now, like where do you see the next 6 to 12 months now that we're done working? Like, obviously like we worked on a lot during our time. What do you see in the future for you?
Moving into the agency model has it's a whole new ballgame now. I mean, I'm shifting more, which is, I watched you do this, or not do this, but make the shift, I guess is the wording, from a lot of fulfillment stuff to I got to grow this business now, so that's kind of my next planning is like becoming the content guy, which like I've mirrored a lot of what you've done, but it still goes back to what you taught me about simplicity. I mean, my content creation process right now, like I go on a morning walk with my daughter, pull out my phone and take a selfie video. Like in the back of my mind, there were 500 things wrong with that. Like, I mean, I've had to say hello to my neighbors in the middle of my video. And I'm like, Chris wouldn't give a shit about that. Like he just would keep talking. Or like my daughter literally threw her binky out the other day and I had to stop, pick it up. Like I made it part of the video. Like there's like that underlying thing that I've learned from you. So where like, I'm sure there's some phrase like something beats perfection, whatever that is, movement over perfection, whatever. Movement over motivation was the old Albert phrase, I believe, so that's kind of one big thing for me is that I've learned from you is just to keep it simple and keep moving forward. A second part to that would be like agency wise, results are dominant, like even for my days working with you as a employee and then also as, having you as my coach, like everything was always just results based. Like if we get good results in whatever we do, everything else falls to the wayside. Like there's a bunch of bullshit we worry about, but if we can deliver results, which was something that I could easily bounce off of you and our messages. And usually within minutes, you replied to me hour or two max if you were busy, but always had that sounding board for you before I would go to my clients with an idea or before I would launch an idea for my own business. So it worked on both sides, my fulfillment and my personal business.
Awesome. What surprised you about the mentorship, if anything? And did you have any misconceptions before we got started, before you like made that decision to jump in?
I think kind of the same. The thing that surprised me was also my misconception in a good way. I expected a roadmap and it was like, I almost expected it to be like a course, and that's not at all what coaching should be. I realized that within the first couple of months. I think the first couple of months were hard for me, and the fact that I'm the type to where I don't want to bug you, and I don't know if that's my introversion or what, but like if anybody was thinking about doing the coaching with you, it'd be to bug the shit out of you and use you. That was my first mistake for like the first 2 months. Not that I wasted the 2 months because I did learn, but like that's how it works with you is like get the most out of Chris. You have to engage with them pretty much every single day. Like I made it a habit to tell you exactly what I was going to do that week, that day, whatever it was. Thoughts, I would still send them to you, and sometimes it's a thought and like it's just like a thumbs up reaction reply. It's like, okay, cool, he saw it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't need a reply sometimes. But like that was my number one misconception that turned out to be the best thing, because then it was a custom experience for me, which is what coaching should be, especially one-on-one mentorship style coaching. If you give me a roadmap for a freelancer trying to go from $5,000 to $10,000 a month, that would be stupid. That was me 3 years before I hired you. So the custom roadmap was what I needed, but I had to get that out of you via questions.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like courses are great for specific skills and specific like jobs to be done in the business and getting you from like point A to point B to point C. But I mean, I've just found this too in my own business. You get to a certain point where like there aren't any other courses because the problems that you have are not mass market enough for someone to even create a course. And it does require more of that custom, like, where should I go next? It's like, where do you want to go? Right? Like if we know where you want to go, we can build the plan and figure out how to get there. But yeah, I mean, just to go back to, I love when people bug me, and I have some students now, even I'll have to like check in and be like, hey, is everything all right? And like sometimes they're like, oh yeah, I'm working. Like I'll hit you when I need you, but other times people are like, actually I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z. And I like running it the way that I run it because, one of the things that in past experiences, like it's obviously like a lot of programs are run where they have the specific group calls, or it's every 2 weeks or every month or whatever it is. And that's cool. But like sometimes you need help that day, the next 24 hours, next 48 hours, or like you have something that you don't want to wait 3 weeks till your next call, or by then the problem's solved and then you're just hopping on and bullshitting on the call. And it's like, I like doing it async where, you tell me what's going on. I'm going to tell you how I would approach this in my business, or what you should do based on, use cases that I've seen in other industries and things like that. So I'm glad that you like that. So if someone's on the fence about working with me, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I mean, I would tell them to kind of of take the advice I said previously. Like, you have to engage with Chris to get the most out of the coaching. If you're the type to fully utilize and implement what Chris tells you, it's a no-brainer. But if you're the type that's looking for a dopamine stroke and to have Chris as a coach and post about it online, then don't, because it is something you have to implement. Like, Chris isn't going to sit there and hold your hand and check in with you every day. Like, how was your day today? Like, it's not that kind of stuff at all. So, I mean, if I did another 12 months, I would be even more engaged than I was the first round. That would be daily check-ins that I'm sending you. It would be a weekly overall check-in, and really using, this is a second point, I should have used you for more business stuff than just copywriting. That's the other side of the thing, is like, Chris is running, however, I don't know, however many businesses are under your umbrella, but it's agency, it's content creation, like all these different umbrellas. And I probably didn't start doing that until halfway through the entire coaching program. And that was probably the best stuff out of everything I learned. You can go buy a copywriting course. Like, yes, Chris, you're great at copy and all that, but like, the business side of the stuff was what really helped me the most. And I think that's where there's not courses out there like that. Like, there's not 6, 7, 8-figure agency owners that are sharing advice, and business owners, I should say, on that level that you could have one-on-one access to with Chris's coaching.
Thanks so much, Nick. I really appreciate you taking the time. Give everyone a website so they can get onto your list and follow you. I know you're at Twitter at...
I am Nick Yates. My agency website is yatesdigital.com. So that's the main one right now. Everything else is on my socials, though. So we just look for the balding guy with the beard. So
that's why we work so well together. We're both bald, or well,
exactly.
You're still hanging on. I took the plunge, but
there.
That's the secret. That's the secret. That's
Yes,
what happens.
Nobody knows.
Crossing the
it's your
chasm.
choice at that point.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nick. Appreciate it. And everyone get on Nick's list and follow Nick, because he's the man.